Um, to kind of review here, I do think that hell was a prison made for the angels, but I find it hard to believe that it's some kind of temporary residing place for people, human souls, not souls, for human people to go, the resurrected unrighteous, to go into hell. Because what's the point of putting the unrighteous into hell and then just not a little while later throwing them into the lake of fire, and then being in the lake of fire still being in torment? What I can understand from what I've read is that when men go into this lake of fire, they are destroyed completely. The wicked shall be utterly destroyed. It says that. The angels might not be. Because of however God made them, they may be indestructible. They may actually, because they're the only ones besides this verse in Luke that says are in eternal torment. It does say they're in eternal torment earlier. But I still take the lake of fire to just mean complete destruction, permanent, irreversible destruction. Kind of going back over this again, the belief that I have in death is that it's a type of sleep. We don't immediately go to heaven or hell, but sleep until we are resurrected, where we are judged and then fate decided. First the dead, then the living. Also, there's some things people talk about, like when a young person dies, what happens to them. I don't think that there's anyone who would be deemed unrighteous by God if they were, say, they just had the chance to do what is right. I mean, it talks about various verses that God knows what everyone is going to do. He knows your life choices. He knows what's going to happen to a person. Meaning that if someone who dies young, you could say, well, he didn't get to live his whole life. What if he would have changed? You know, only God knows that. And this is kind of like the situation Job had. It's you find yourself arguing with the creator of the universe. I mean, and I love that verse. And there's, will not the Lord of all, will not the Lord of all good not do what is right? I mean, he who created goodness, do you not trust that he will do the right thing? I mean, that he will make the right call on that. He'll do what's right there. Are you doubting his decision? You know, I mean, who are you to argue with God, basically? Who are you to question him? So I think that in situations like that, maybe he has some kind of foresight into what they would have done in life, or what choices they would have made, or that they were given exactly the amount of time and the right opportunity that they had to do what was right and chose not to. And that leads into other giant moral questions, like if he knew that they were gonna, be bad, why even make them in the first place? But that kind of, I think that interferes with free will a little bit, because even though he knows they're destined for hell in a way, he still has to give them that choice. He can't just say, don't create that person. They're just gonna die anyway. Being a loving creator who loves even sinners would allow them to have that life, would allow them maybe the chance to change, um, even if he knows that their future. Um, yeah, that kind of summarizes my idea on what I think heaven and hell are. Once again, these are just my opinions, my interpretation of it. Um, I just a lot of ideas have been perpetuated in our head by Hollywood and movies, and some Baptist churches and things that we go to, that we get these ideas in our head without actually looking into them and studying them. And the whole thing about the new earth, one thing that got to me is that a lot of people like to view the earth as bad. It's a bad thing, and that heaven is good. And that's that kind of materialist versus spiritualist idea that Plato came up with. That's a Platonic idea. He made that up. The earth is not bad, in a sense. And yes, there's even verses where you look in like Matthew and stuff, where he's talking about, um, you know, worldly things being bad. We have to remember that God made the earth. He made this world. We corrupted it. Satan corrupted it. The earth was intended to be a very good thing for us. And a lot of the time there are good things that we pervert. And I think that's how evil comes into play, is that evil is a perversion of what is good. We corrupted this place. Fallen angels corrupted this place. It wasn't intended to be bad. So to say that earthly material things are bad is not true. Even God gives people who follow him and worship him material things, like David and Solomon and Job. He gave material possessions to. So we can't always say that material things are bad. That's not. We can't just split things apart like that. The world isn't black and white as much as we want it to be. And to show that, he's making a new Earth. Obviously, it's not. This one wasn't originally bad. It was just corrupted. So Earth is not inherently evil or bad, but it does say that the Lord of this world has made it bad, and that's why he has kind of made it his own playground, basically. So he could have some sense of feeling like a god when he's not. But God is going to make a new world, a new earth for us. It's going to be perfect. A new heaven as well, too, because I remember reading somewhere that the dissension that happened in heaven has tarnished even heaven itself. So even it must be made anew. And what you saw in Isaiah, if you read through it, it sounds very similar to Earth. We're doing a lot of the same things, building houses, farming. For some reason, there won't be a sea. We won't be marrying each other. I think the sea thing might have something to do because water is a life-giving element, and it says there will be rivers that pour from God, the temple, and New Jerusalem itself. Sort of that'll be our nourishment. But something that I thought that crossed my mind, though, is that I don't think that the New World is going to be the end of the story. Just like C.S. Lewis said at the end of the Chronicles of Narnia, and for us, this is the end of all stories. And we can most truly say that they all lived happily ever after. But for them, it was only the beginning of the real story. All their life in this world and all their adventures in Narnia had only been the cover and the title page. Now at last, they were beginning chapter 1 of the great story, which no one on earth has read, which goes on forever, in which every chapter is better than the one before. And him being, a Christian author, I think maybe he even might have thought the same thing or something similar. God is going to make this new world and this new earth, this new heaven, but it is similar to Earth. It was similar to the old heaven. And if you remember, even the Garden of Eden was perfect once. The problem was, and might still be in this new world, free will, given new bodies. Adam and Eve were once immortal too. They had special bodies too, but they had free will, and that was kind of the problem. But it was the dilemma of free will and loving freely. That's the problem humans have, and it was also apparently a problem that angels had. And I don't know if angels are going to be included or not in this new world, but if they are, all it takes is one. One angel to have one moment of jealousy and pride, and this whole story could start all over again. Just think about that. It could. I mean, the whole thing could start over. With that thought, I'll leave you. Thank you guys for listening. Once again, any comments, questions, please share.